Welcome everybody to Niners Now. I'm your host Brady Grustas at GrustasBrady on X. You can follow me there. And today we've got the latest news on Monday's training camp practice, the first padded practice of the year. And it was a fun one. Of course, stick around until later in the show to hear the latest intel on the Niners' new Rivalry jerseys. And after that, we'll be doing another installment of our roster ranking series. Before we begin though, go ahead and subscribe down below, leave a like, leave a comment, and let's get into it. So to start off, we've got a quick update on the Eli Apple signing. The Niners made that signing official on Monday. Apple will be wearing number 30, and to make room for him, the Niners cut wide receiver Quintez Cephas, who they just signed last week. This makes a bit of sense. Ricky Pearsall is back, and the team has a clear injury timeline for Jacob Cowing, so I don't think they really needed Cephas anymore. Speaking, though, of injuries, Teron Jackson has been discharged from the Stanford Hospital. He did not practice on Monday, but it does sound like he's going to be all right. In case you missed it, on Sunday, Jackson had a really scary neck injury that led to him being carted off the practice field. But thank goodness, he's doing okay. There was no Jawan Jennings on Monday. Haven't heard about a timeline yet for his calf injury. And Jordan Elliott was not practicing either, although it's not clear exactly why just yet. Now, if you look below my face on the screen, you'll see that it's now officially time to extend a big congratulations to Brock Purdy and his wife Jenna for their birth of their first child. QB1 is officially a dad, and he balled out in his first practice as a father. Purdy had that dad strength on Monday. He had his best practice of camp so far. He was making plays with his arm, his legs, his brain. He was cooking. Some of his best plays included a long touchdown to George Kittle, a dime to Russell Gage, throwing Jordan Watkins out of double coverage, and the highlight of the day, a spin move to avoid a Nick Bosa sack before delivering a perfect throw to Kyle Juszczyk on the sideline. I mean, Purdy looked absolutely phenomenal. And he was not the only one who was looking special at padded practices. There were a ton of players who really stood out to me. Immediately, my eyes went to the trenches, where the O-line and the D-line matched up in 1v1s and team drills all day long. Trent Williams and Colton McKivitz were both dueling with Nick Bosa, and both of them had some nice plays against him, but Bosa had a really, really productive day. Multiple would-be sacks for Bosa on Monday. And of course, that one almost sack on Purdy that we just spoke about. Because Jordan Elliott was out, Kevin Givens lined up next to Evan Anderson, Kalia Davis, and Alfred Collins during team drills with the first team defense. A whole rotating cast right there. I think it's worth noting that those guys got their chances in that order. Anderson was first, then Davis, then Alfred Collins. I thought the rookies were a huge story of Monday's practice. And speaking of those rookies, I thought Alfred Collins looked more effective in team drills than in 1v1s. That makes sense. He's an enormous dude, and although he's super strong, his height can lead to a couple of difficulties with pad level from here and there. From time to time, I should say. So 1v1s is not exactly the best showcase for Collins' talents. That pad level thing is going to be something to watch with Collins for sure moving forward. It's just every offensive lineman he plays against pretty much is going to be shorter than him, so he's going to have to get more consistency with his pad level if he wants to be a high-level contributor. Speaking of the rookie defensive linemen, both of them, aside from Alfred Collins, being C.J. West and Mykel Williams, dominated the first padded practice of the year. Mykel looked more comfortable rushing the passer inside than outside, but he looked pretty sweet at both spots. Showed some monstrous strength, a little tongue twister, and he even beat Trent Williams one-on-one. He showed out during team drills as well. He was making stops on the first play of each and every session. Mykel is dangerous, and he's looking to be as good as advertised. Speaking of dangerous, fourth-round pick C.J. West put on a clinic in 1v1 drills. He won all 5 of his matchups versus Matt Hennessy, Zach Johnson, Drew Moss, Connor Colby, and yes, Dominic Puni. Puni was otherwise really stout during practice, so West beating him is pretty notable. Puni also had wins against Evan Anderson and Kevin Givens. Nick Zakelj also had a nice day in 1v1s, beating Kevin Givens and Kalia Davis. And Bryce Huff started to really flash that speed and bend around the edge, beating Spencer Burford and Austin Pleasance. Now, aside from the offensive and defensive lines, the padded practice seemed to confirm everything that we've been seeing so far. The guys who came into this week with a lot of momentum continued to carry that momentum. Russell Gage was really productive with multiple quarterbacks. Jordan James had a deep receiving touchdown down the sideline from Tanner Mordecai. Jason Pinnock is looking more and more comfortable as a first-team safety. He tipped a pass for George Kittle that was intercepted today. And D. Winters had his best practice of camp so far. Winters was everywhere on Monday. He flashed amazing sideline-to-sideline speed against Isaac Guerendo, who, is fast in his own right. Winters had a tip drill interception, a tackle for loss, and the biggest hit of training camp as well, laying out Guerendo in the flat. Winters is clearly separating himself as the second best linebacker on this team and a clear starter to me moving forward. Mac Jones, I thought, also had a nice day as well. He took what the defense gave him. He was very efficient with the football. He hit Patrick Taylor Jr. deep down the sideline on Monday. But the last thing that I want to talk about is the cornerback competition. Jacob Robinson, the undrafted free agent, has been fantastic as of late. He had another great practice on Monday with a pass breakup on Russell Gage. Dallas Flowers has flashed some ridiculous athleticism and got a ton of recognition from Lenore and Robert Saleh after a big highlight play. Upton Stout also had his best practice as a Niner once he put the pads on. He laid out Isaac Guerendo, despite being like 5 inches shorter and probably 40 pounds lighter than him. Stout also had a really nice pass breakup on Ricky Pearsall. This kid is legit, I am telling you. And Darrell Luter Jr. even worked in place of Trey Brown with the first team defense. This competition for the depth corner spots is really tight. And with Eli Apple joining the room as well, it's going to be a dogfight. The boys had a great day one of training camp, with pads on, I should say. But I do still think that there's places to improve. Even if you don't want any part of the Christian Wilkins situation, and you can look that one up on your own, there's a lot of unanswered questions about what happened with Christian Wilkins and the Raiders. Even if you ignore that situation, Justin Simmons is still a free agent at safety. Noah Fant is available at tight end. Gabe Davis at wide receiver, which we talked about yesterday. And even the recently waived Treylon Burks at receiver as well. If you haven't heard, Burks, former first-round pick of the Titans, broke his collarbone. He was always a pretty versatile guy. I think could be a decent fit in the Niners scheme. And yes, he's hurt, but these are all guys who can help the team. Just because we're a week into training camp doesn't mean that this roster is finalized. There's plenty of ways to make the team better, even if it's something flashy like, maybe a DeForest Buckner trade or a Terry McLaurin trade, right? The Niners are usually a pretty aggressive front office, and I'm excited to see what they get up to for the rest of the summer. Now it's time to talk about the latest updates on the 49ers rivalry jerseys. Over the weekend, we got a whole bunch of social media posts across the league with these short kind of teaser trailers. First, we learned that the Niners are going to be wearing their rivalry jerseys in Week 18 when they play Seattle at home. And I'll just say it, that's insane. That is insane that they are keeping these jerseys locked away until the last game of the year, which by all means could be meaningless. It's absurd to me, right? If the team is really good, then they're probably going to be resting starters in Week 18. If the team is really bad, Week 18 is not going to matter anyways, right? There's so many ways that Week 18 could turn into just a meaningless football game, and that's when you choose to put on your rivalry jerseys? Use them against the Cardinals. Use them against the Rams. Why not? Those are better options, in my opinion, in the middle of the schedule. I don't agree with the decision at all by whoever it was that made that decision. If I have to watch Mac Jones and the backups play in these jerseys, I will not be happy about it. I wore my all-black Navarro Bowman jersey for this rivalry jersey segment, and as you can see, I've had this thing for a while. I respect it very deeply, and I love the 49ers alternate jerseys. So if this one is getting disrespected by being relegated to Week 18, I'm going to be pissed. I've got to defend my alternate jerseys. Anyways, though, we did learn that the release date for all these jerseys is going to be August 28th, which is exactly 1 week before Week 1 kicks off. It's kind of a shame that we have to wait an entire month to see what these jerseys look like, but you know what? Oh well, we're waiting anyways, right? So let's talk about what these jerseys might look like for San Francisco. The first teaser that was dropped on social media was this image of a Niners red jersey engraved in what looked like a wall of stone. The wall chips, and it chips a little bit more, and it chips until a chunk of stone flies off and towards the camera. Inside the wall where the stone used to be appears to be this sort of like black dirt. I honestly thought that they were insinuating coal mining when I first watched the trailer. But I looked closer and they did put little flecks of gold in there as well, which makes sense, right? Gold mining, 49ers, sure. Now, the second teaser had the image of a saloon door with a red background. This background noise and this background kind of wind sound got louder and louder until the background turned to black and the silhouette of a player appears behind the door for a split second. Maybe a little too early to say this, but I think I called it, you guys. I think these rivalry jerseys are going to be all black with some gold trim and accents. So, of course, I had to break out the old Navarro Bowman all black jersey. Some people in the comments of these teasers are theorizing that the helmet is going to be this matte kind of color instead of their usual glossy finish. I can't really tell personally just based off the teaser, but I do think it's a valid theory. But I think it's happening, people. I think that we are getting the return of the all-black jerseys very soon. So let me know what you think of the rivalry teasers in the comments below. And would you buy an all-black jersey like I did all those years ago? Let me know. Now it's time for one of the last couple installments of the roster ranking series. This group, players 29 through 20, is full of players who I think should start most games, or at least play a heavy role in a rotation this year. These are guys that we're likely going to see the Niners have to rely on from week to week. Starting off with number 29, I'm going with the rookie running back Jordan James from Oregon. He did not measure or test very well at the combine, so he fell all the way to the 5th round. But I think that James is a baller, all right? He's gotten comparisons to a guy like Devontae Freeman, and I can kind of see that. James plays faster than he tested, but his real strength is his shiftiness. He's a shorter back who can get skinny behind his linemen, shrug off a few tackles as well, and he can pass protect. I think he's going to be a really useful role player from day one, and he's got a chance to blossom into something special. He's been impressing in training camp, and hopefully we'll get to see him ball out and play a whole lot of reps in the preseason and in the regular season as well. At number 28, I've got the new long snapper, John Weeks. Now, I'll be honest, I can't tell you much about long snapper gameplay, but John Weeks has been in the NFL since 2009. Yes, you heard me, 2009. He's one of the only long snappers I'd even heard of before the Niners brought him in, so he's doing something right. This feels like an appropriate ranking for what is presumably an elite special teamer. Shout out to John Weeks. Coming in at 27 is the guard Ben Bartch. Is this a little high for Bartch, considering we saw him play less than 100 snaps as a 49er? Potentially, but what we did see I thought was pretty sweet and a comfortable upgrade over Aaron Banks. Bartch is obviously a pretty major unknown, all things considered, and there's a very real chance that he is not good for this team next year. But based on the very limited sample size we have, he's an athletic run blocker with nice size, nice strength, nice speed, and he's a pretty solid pass blocker. If he plays just at that level that I described, or even close to it this season, that's a success in my book. At 26, I'm going to go with our one and only fullback, Kyle Juszczyk. Juice is the longest tenured 49er, sort of. I guess it depends on how you want to count it. Juice signed with the team before George Kittle did. Both of those guys joined the Niners in Shanahan and Lynch's first offseason back in 2017. But, of course, the Niners did briefly cut Juice this offseason before bringing him back on a reduced contract. I have to go back and look, but I'm not even sure he spent a full week as a free agent before he returned. It's clear that he loves playing for the 49ers, and ideally, he retires as a member of the organization. He's not quite playing at his peak, I don't think, but he's still a fantastic supporting piece for an offense. He can legitimately play tight end. He's a good enough route runner and pass catcher to play that position full time, but he can carry the ball if needed as well with, he's got solid vision. His biggest asset, besides his versatility, is his blocking. Having a guy you can put all over the formation to block is fantastic. All this stuff where you let him touch the ball, all that is bonus. I'll say this right now, there's never been a fullback as good as Kyle Juszczyk is as a receiver. He makes some of the most ridiculous catches you'll ever see from a fullback. Moving on now, at number 25 is young linebacker D. Winters. Winters was a 6th round pick out of TCU a couple years ago and has been slowly developing into a potential starter for this team. Winters is a lighter linebacker who can really run. He's uber athletic, and he's not only very fast, but very quick. When he triggers and correctly identifies where the ball is going, he can be there so quickly. Winters does have a few major issues so far in his career, though. He's struggled to stay healthy, he's struggled to finish tackles, and he has been fooled in coverage a couple times, These are major hurdles that Winters is going to have to overcome if he wants to earn that starting job and really become a valuable player for the Niners. He's had plenty of time to develop, and the team needs him now. Luckily, he's starting to really impress in training camp, and I'm excited to see how he does for the rest of the summer. At 24, I'm picking the center Jake Brendel. Brendel is an extremely polarizing player for 49ers fans. He's an offensive lineman, so naturally his weaknesses are going to be more noticeable than his strengths. With that said, though, he's essentially a pure liability in pass protection. You cannot leave him one-on-one with any respectable defensive lineman or he will get torched. We've seen it time and time again. However, on the flip side, he is an athletic run blocker who can get out in space and clear lanes, especially at the second level. And as we all know, the run blocking is what Shanahan prioritizes, which is why Brendel has been able to keep his job this long. I think Brendel is definitely not quite as good as the coaches say he is, but I also think he's not as bad as a lot of the fan base says. Brendel is probably somewhere between the 25th and 15th best center in the NFL, and he's going to be with the team until they find a cheap upgrade. On to number 23 now. I'm going to pick defensive tackle Evan Anderson. Anderson had a really nice rookie year for a UDFA. He made the 53-man roster and played legit rotation snaps for much of the season. He was a big, beefy run stopper in the middle and occasionally would give you a nice pass rush or two. One thing I also really liked from Anderson was his ability to put his hands up and knock down a pass. He was one of the best defensive tackles on the team last year, in my opinion. And if he can build on that success going into year 2, I think he could be a staple in this rotation for a long time. At 22, I've got another defensive lineman, edge rusher Sam Aquanu. Sam O was a huge surprise last year. They brought him off the street in the dead of the offseason, and he really impressed. He moved outside to edge rusher and became this thick edge setter who was pretty solid as a run defender. And as a pass rush, he would line up sometimes on the edge, sometimes inside, but regardless of where he lined up, he was running stunts and games, and he was producing on his way to 3 sacks this year. Aquanu started a couple games last year, and he should definitely be a big part of the rotation yet again. I love his energy, I love what he brings to the D-line, and having that kind of guy coming off the bench is going to be a great help to what was a pretty bad unit last year. Number 21 is our third D lineman in a row. It's edge rusher Bryce Huff. Now, Huff was a late addition to the team this year. The Niners traded for him in late May. Huff spent his first 4 years with the Jets, where he played under Robert Saleh, and he had a big breakout season in 2023. He had 10 sacks, and those sacks, plus his incredible pass rush efficiency that year, landed him a huge payday from the Eagles, which is where he played last year. And it was clear pretty quickly that Huff just wasn't a great fit for the 3-4 hybrid defense that the Eagles and defensive coordinator Vic Fangio like to run. He didn't play great, he got phased out of the rotation, and this summer he was traded to San Francisco, where he is a much better scheme fit, reuniting with Robert Saleh. Huff's speed off the edge is terrifying. The Niners have rarely had a guy with this type of speed and explosiveness. You'd really have to go back to like D Ford to find the last guy with these tools, and I'm super excited to see what Huff can do in the red and gold this year. Our last player today is the 3rd round pick, rookie cornerback Upton Stout at number 20. Stout is a dog. D-A-W-G, dog. He's really small, all right? He's only 5'8", so he's probably going to just be a nickel cornerback in the NFL. But he's sticky in man coverage, he's quick, and he plays angry. He'll blow up a screen, he'll shoot into the backfield for a TFL, and he'll get in a receiver's face. Stout has the perfect mentality, and if he can overcome the physical deficiencies, he's going to play a lot for the Niners, and he's going to play well. He's been impressing in training camp so far, and if he can beat out guys like Dallas Flowers and Trey Brown for more playing time, I'm super excited to see Upton Stout in the regular season. So that's all we've got for today's ranking. Am I too high on guys like Jake Brendel and D. Winters, or am I too low on them? Let me know in the comments down below. And of course, let me know if you enjoyed this episode. Leave a comment, leave a like, and let me know if there's any topics you'd like to see me cover. Thank you all for watching, and subscribe for 49ers videos 5 days a week. I'm Brady Grustas at GrustasBrady on X. This has been Niners Now, and I'll see you tomorrow.